happen, I'm sure.
What's that?
Streaming live.
Here we go.
Hi.
Where is everybody?
Where are we?
Where's our fan club?
Where are we?
Oh, wait, what's going on with my, hold on. Oh, there we go. Sorry. I had us playing in another window there. I was getting all kinds of feedback. What's that?
It doubles up in the words. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So I was thinking too, when I was creating the thumbnail for today or the post for today, I almost put principle number 6 again, because principle number 6 is so powerful.
It is.
And I think it would benefit to just do a quick review. We can review all of them at the end, but I think a quick review of 6, because then I think that's going to go into 7, which might be it could be a little like heady, like, you know, chewy.
It is.
For people today.
It
right?
is. So welcome to Chiropractic is Sexy. Dr. Paula forgot to say that much. I'm Dr. Erica Peabody, and now here we are. There's everybody.
I did forget that, didn't I?
My nearest and dearest. I know.
There we go. We got it now. Here.
Like my nearest and dearest.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you guys. We were sitting here all by ourselves. We're like, where is everybody? They don't love us today. Nice to see you guys coming in. And, you know, as every week, we are coming in hot, straight off of the adjusting floor, right here onto the camera. So it's always a whirlwind. I've had I didn't have a busy morning, but it was like a lot of moving parts. So, you know, Dr. Eric and I both have added cold laser to our practices, which has been incredible from a depth of healing perspective. So, you know, now when people come in, so it's taking a little bit of extra time because we're having to pay attention and add it in to some of our treatments, but it's all good. It's really, I mean,
so good. It's so
I had a woman who, and she's like, I don't want to call it a dog bite. She ended up going to the urgent care because she was playing with her dog, and she went to grab a toy and he clamped down on her finger. And you know, it wasn't, she was playing with her dog, right? So and it was way in the back molar. And when she pulled her finger out, like his molars just shredded her finger. And fortunately, she came in for an adjustment. She was supposed to come in Monday, and she came in on Tuesday because of that injury. And we ran the laser on it. And she came in today and she's like, look at this thing. Look at it. Oh my God.
I know. It's crazy.
She came in today just to get laser done on her shredded finger, which was like miraculous that it was able to help that much. So
yeah, that's awesome. I actually had a patient in this morning. So I saw her. She was not a patient before. She's been a friend and acquaintance of mine for decades. And so I saw her, my guy and I, we were out on Sunday night. We went to dinner. And so this particular woman was sitting at the corner of the bar, and we walked by and we sat down in a booth and we had a nice dinner and we just said hello and whatever. And so the very next day, she had a massive fall, massive. She majorly sprained her foot, ankle. She fractured her leg. She's on all this stuff. Like, I'm like, didn't I just see you the day before this?
Oh my God.
Anyway, so she sent me a message over Instagram or through one of the socials. And she was like, do you do laser? And I said, yes. And so it was really great to be able to. So the laser itself, it takes a number of visits to work with something like this, but we're going to be lasering her. She had surgery yesterday. I mean, just freaking went for it. But here's the thing. So Dr. Paul and I both brought the same laser in because we have our own ails. We have our own ails, and we're not about to go under the knife for different things. Like, I've had a plantar fasciitis for almost a year. I had the other side was 5 years ago 6 years ago after finishing Kilimanjaro. And I'm just, everyone's like, just go in and get your plantar fascia sliced. No, thank you. No, thank you. but it's also worked up into my hip. And then I had that sinus thing going on last week, and I've just been getting adjusted. I've been adjusted twice since I saw you guys last week. No, 3 times. I had a massage on Monday, been lasering my sinuses, been lasering my foot, been doing all the things. And so anyway, we're super duper excited to both have this, because we are just doing some really incredible stuff. So Dr. Paula had asked me to review principle number 6, which, as chiropractic students and chiropractors out in the field, principle number 6 is like, yes, like we literally say principle number 6, everything takes time. Like, not just everything takes time in our lives, with our friends, our family, with everybody. It's like principle number 6, everything takes time, which that's what it is.
Growing a business.
Growing a business, growing our health, growing connections, growing friendships, growing relationships, training dogs, all the things. Everything takes time.
My hairdresser and I joked about this, because it's like, if you went to your hairdresser and you had short hair and you're like, I want long hair.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Short of like putting extensions or a wig in, how long is that going to take? You have to grow your hair out. It takes time.
It takes time. And actually going from a one color to another, that takes time. Like, literally everything takes time. And what I do have to say again about that is that the media teaches us that we don't need to take time. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And here's the thing. So when you're climbing a ladder, this is another one of the principles inside of the 12 stages of healing, Donnie Epstein, who is network spinal analysis. So it's a different technique, but it's called the 12 stages of healing. And that we have stage 1, which is when you have an injury, we have inflammation sets in. Inflammation has 2 reasons to be there. It needs to be there to clean the area up. It's the garbage man of the body, but it also needs to move in for splinting. When the tissues fill with fluid, which is inflammation, that's for splinting. So that, for instance, this ankle sprain that came in, the inflammation is there to splint. So then I know, who wants 12, right? Exactly.
I think
nobody wants 12.
We have 12 more episodes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, exactly. I should get that book out. I don't know if it's here at home. But then the next thing that happens is then the body goes in, it starts to lay down fibrous tissue, and it starts to build bridges, fill gaps. And then it takes time. And then the pain decreases, because your body doesn't want you on it while the pain is there, so that it can have the time appropriate. I always tell people, like, if your body is splinting for a reason, it's doing that to stop you from doing what you want to do. It's making you sit still and take time. So then from there, we go into, if you go from major symptoms, right? You have a sprain, for instance, and you go put some drugs on top of it. It's almost like you skipped rungs of the ladder, right? And if you think about this emotional healing and spiritual healing and all those kinds of things too, it's like you skip rungs of the ladder. Well, you cannot climb a ladder 3 rungs at a time. You have to take the steps. You can work to climb stairs maybe 3 steps at a time, but you know how much effort that goes into that. You can't sustain that rung if you didn't do the rungs on the way up. So,
or you're missing a rung.
Yeah, or you missed one, you skipped one, you got to turn around and go back to it. So anyway, the principle of time, it takes time, and it takes time to make those steps. It takes time for the body to heal. It takes time for all the things to grow anything. And especially if you guys are doing gardens, you plant the seeds, it takes time.
And I think that's a great segue into principle number 7, because of the time, and then the things that we do to interfere with the time.
For sure.
Because we look at these principles and we're like, we have to be really thoughtful on how we deliver them to you. And this one's a chewy one, but we're gonna unpack it right here with you guys. So you want to reveal it?
Yep. So principle number 7, the amount of intelligence in matter. So now remember, intelligence is the innate intelligence that moves our body around in space, right? So the amount of intelligence for any given amount of matter is 100%, and is always proportional to its requirements. So let's read that again. The amount of intelligence for any given amount of matter is 100%, and it's always proportional to its requirements. So when I talked about Benjamin a little bit last time. There's Kenny. He's such
Kenny.
a goofball. Hey kids, he says. Hey kids. We talked about Benjamin last time. So he came through the birth canal, traumatic birth, placenta abrupted off of the wall of the uterus. So he ended up with cerebral palsy, right? So he had a little different expression in the world than, say, somebody without cerebral palsy. I don't know that any of us are normal. I mean, what's normal, right? But this is like a major decrease in oxygen at that time. And
We need
for
the basics, right? I mean,
what's that?
we need the basics or things like
Yeah,
that happen. So
exactly. So I'm just thinking, even in his case, and who knows exactly what his limitations inside of his brain were? Who knows what parts were deoxygenated or lack of oxygenated or hypoxic at what time? Who knows exactly? But then that his body required a certain amount of, well, 100% intelligence, no matter what, right? Puts our body together and keeps our body moving around in space. And he had different demands on his body, different way of being on his body. And the one thing that I think about too is when we're sick, like if we're going down, and there's a lot of sickness going around right now, when we're going down, our body has to like boost certain areas. So let's just say our sinuses are full of an infection. Our body needs to boost what it's doing. It doesn't mean that it's 100%, it's more than 100% intelligence. It just means that this area of our body is requiring an extreme amount of energy, extreme amount of snot, extreme amount of whatever it is to get this crap up out of our body. It's so intelligent. So then people say, well, what am I supposed to do in the meantime? You're supposed to drink water. You're supposed to get your rest. You're supposed to eat well. You're supposed to get adjusted. You're supposed to do all the same things that we've been talking about every time. Just we have a high demand right here. Not so much here or here, but like right here.
well, and also that'll play into, that's the obvious one, right? But what about like excessive amounts of stress? And some days you're like, oh my God, like, and this isn't an excessive amount of stress, but I'm doing this right now. I have to run down to South Lyon, which is 20 minutes away. I have to pick up dog food. I have to be back here. I have a pile of stuff on my desk right here that needs to get addressed. But then I hit the ground running at 3:00 and I'm not going to stop till 6.
Right.
So there is some extra stress. So my brain is requiring more energy. My brain is requiring more blood flow. It's requiring that I'm able to like, compartmentalize things and coordinate and organize my path, because I know I am going to be literally like balls to the wall. Can I say that? For the next 4 hours. That's a lot, right? And I can, talking about it, I automatically am feeling like my increased respiration. I'm like, okay. So recognizing that is just what Dr. Erica was saying, is like your body does require, it's always intelligent. And then sometimes the intelligence needs to be greater to help you get through certain things, whether it's an illness or pain or stress or, something like that. So then when we come in and we're like, oh, I have a headache, I'm just going to take a couple of, a leave, or I have a fever, or I have snot. And instead of getting it out of my system, I'm going to take some meds to dry it up.
Right.
So instead of doing all of that, or instead of just allowing it to flow, we then go this outside in approach. We start taking things that then suppress it. So now you're actually suppressing that intelligence. Mm-hmm. And then it has to fight back against it, right? So now it's like this constant like battle of, no, we're trying to get you well. We're trying to get you past it. We're trying to relax your brain. We're trying to do all these things. But then we keep throwing the outside approach on it. So just really important to, as much as you can, allowing your body to do what it needs to do, allow it to life. And I will say this though, too, and I'm sure Dr. Erica can probably concur with this, is that, and depends, like a lot of people, I've had people come in and like, oh, I'll take a couple of a leave before I go golfing in case I get sore. Like, okay, being sore is okay. It's okay to do that. this is not a way of living. Your body's not deficient in Aleve. However, if you have a really acute injury, like this poor woman who had the fall, and I'm thinking back to like 4 years ago when I got like major sick. It was January. It was pre-COVID, but I'm pretty sure I was like ground zero.
Right. Me too. Same
Yeah.
time.
And it was the sickest I've ever been. I have
Mhm.
zero drugs in my house. I called my sister-in-law and I'm like, I need drugs. Bring me something. Because also my mom died that week. So let's talk about the stress. And I had to be able to navigate people and things and events in order to get through that week. So I say to people, I don't live inside your body.
Right.
And so you do need to do what, you know, so I don't want to sit here on my laurels and go, don't ever take a medication.
Right.
Because you, at some point, there is a survival mechanism. And I totally get that. But if you're somebody who's taking something regularly just in case, then you have to start having that conversation with yourself. Allow your body the intelligence that it needs to help you not have to do the just in case things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to, Kenny, so thank you for sending gentleman style. Love that. Kenny says, I wore steel toe boots or new boots to work and going to have to buy a different pair. My legs and feet are killing me. Okay. So, oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. There's like so much great stuff here. So what I want to say to that, Kenny, and for everybody else out there, when you make a change like that, especially to the foundation of your body, which is leading to Charlie horses, right up your legs or last night or whatever, switch them on and off. So whatever boots you had before, do 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, because especially as we are aging, and going as the years kind of add up for us, it's hard to make that kind of switch. It's really hard to make that kind of switch. And in fact, I used to just put on a pair of running shoes. In fact, last March, I decided I'm going to run a half marathon and the 10-mile road race that I always run in the fall. So I went and got a new pair of shoes for my sneakers last year. And prior years, I never have had to do 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. Never had to do that before. Guess what got me into this plantar fasciitis? By the stupid running shoes, those stupid running companies. They just change your shoes just fractions of millimeters, but it makes a big difference. So I walked myself right into plantar fasciitis by wearing a particular shoe. And it's the shoe that I wore before. It's just my shoes were ready for my body. The new ones weren't broken in. So there is a certain amount of time that you should give your body a chance to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never done that yet. But when I put the new ones on, they felt really comfy. Same with running shoes. Same. So I got to tell you guys the story from last year. So I was like, okay, I'm going to run my next half marathon in the fall. I haven't run a half in a long time, but I've run a 10-mile road race. So I'm practically there, right? So I got these shoes and I started walking in them and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with my body? Like I must be coming down with something, is how bad I felt. But it was 6 weeks before I realized that Brooks Adrenaline made a slight change since I bought the other pair a year or two before, whatever it was. And I couldn't just step into those anymore because I'm 46 now. I needed to make that slight change. So anything that we're doing is requiring that. So I'm glad you brought that up, but just do 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours like that and make a change. So yeah.
Make the change slowly. So I have orthotics. I've worn orthotics for 30 years, which is, it's a custom footbed that my podiatrist fitted me for because I was having ankle pain, knee pain. And so I have them I wear them in my running shoes, my walking shoes. But what was interesting about that is that we can use all these fancy inserts. But when I got the orthotics, that was the same thing. It was like you couldn't go into that because I was walking flat-footed for so many years. Then you get an orthotic and it supports your foot. It changes the angle on the ankles, the knees, the hips, the back, and all the things. So even as Dr. Eric is saying, even just a few millimeters change in a shoe is enough to throw off your body mechanics.
Right.
So I did that for many years. We have, we call it the Ruffin knees. And so pretty much everybody in my family has like bad knees. And when I turned 30, which is like next year, Laugh,
Right.
everybody. Laugh, everybody. Um,
Next year you turn 30.
I'm going to turn 30
We're
next
gonna have
year.
to celebrate your birth. How are we gonna
Yes.
celebrate your 30th? Oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's gonna be so great.
So I turned 30 and then my knees immediately started all this crunching and crepitus. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is that? So in my head, I was thinking I was destined for like knee replacements, like all the elders in the family. Well, then I discovered yoga.
Right.
So it becomes this combination of wearing a shoe that's proper for your foot, that supports you when you need it, but also being in your bare feet to make sure that your brain gets connected to the earth. Because if you're constantly in a shoe, then your foot never really knows, your
Right.
brain never really knows where the connection to the earth is. So now you change to a different shoe, and there's going to be less adaptability if that shoe is off a little bit. So the more connected you can get your foot to the earth in bare feet or stocking feet, whatever, then changing those shoes, your body's going to have more strength neurologically to move you from one place to the next without having as much of
Right.
of growing pains, if you will.
So I also have a very, very powerful orthotic made. In fact, I'm going to bring this company into the office soon just because you can just do an impression. And I mean, this thing has done wonders for what I have going on, as well as the laser. And one of the things that I want now, okay, there's so many things to say about so many of these topics, but one thing to remember is that at age 12 as compared to age 40, our ability to heal is 60 times slower. So when we're 12, we can do and eat and do all the things and we're healed overnight. Like everything, and we're like invincible, right? But when we're 40, it's like everything that we did at that time shows up between 35 and 50. Like everything is magnified. And so just being really super duper mindful as we're going through. So then I'm like, okay, how do I want my 46-year-old feet to address life going forward? And I want variety, right? I want variety and flexibility. When I'm here at the office, I have to be in these one particular shoes, and I'm still working with that. I used to be barefoot for years. I would adjust in the summer barefoot. So when in 2019, I had heart surgery and my feet are hot now. I don't want to be in shoes. I hate shoes. I hate shoes and socks, especially. So, but I used to be able to just be barefoot. Now I cannot be barefoot and adjust, but now I can be barefoot back at home or out in the grass. And so just flexibility and diversity is a great way to help age and go through life. So yeah.
And a lot of people who have foot problems have been told by a foot doctor to never go barefoot. And that is the worst. That's the worst advice you can ever be given, because we are designed to be barefoot.
Mhm.
Shoes actually is what's causing your problem. So when you're just like, I go to people's houses and they're like, to me, I'm like, if I walk into your house, I'm immediately taking my shoes off because that's where I'm comfortable anyway. I like people take their shoes off when they come into my house. And if I come to your house, it's my immediate, it's like a conditioning for me.
Yeah.
But then people will be in their house and they'll be in like laced up in their tennis shoes. And I'm like, and they're like, oh yeah, I never take my shoes off until I go to bed. And I'm like, oh my God, like let your feet breathe, get in your bare feet, allow your feet to sit on the earth.
Yeah.
And that's really what is keeping you in this chronic state of disrepair. So now if we take that to, look at Lou behind you, just see his little eyes there.
Oh, what you doing, handsome? What you doing, babe?
So I think it's really important as we go back to, talking about principle number 7, is that your body, your intelligence, you're not allowing that full level of intelligence. You're just masking it. You're giving it,
What?
Yeah, that's what your brain is hearing because you got your shoes on. Take your shoes off. Or you're like constantly eating, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or something like that. So
right. So yeah, there's one of the things that we've talked about in the past is that when we think of the brain connection to the body, we think about the brain tells my hand to wave to Dr. Paula. My brain tells my body to move around in space. My brain makes my heart beat. My brain makes my lungs breathe. It's so that's one way. And we can talk about the safety pin cycle sometime, but that's one way that the brain moves. The other is checking in with the feet, with the hands. It's called proprioception as part of it, but it's also like having messages come from the periphery back to the brain constantly. The brain is connecting and keeping tabs on so many parts of the body all the time. More input is coming from the outside back to the brain than the brain is putting out. And I forget what the ratio is there, but I do have to tell you that that is where chiropractic comes in, because the superhighway of the information, the superhighway is the spine, the spinal cord, and the spine houses that. And it's so important. It's housed, like it has an entire house, movable house around it. So the brain has a house, a very strong house. And then we know, I know, then when we know when we're out and about, we're doing activities that require helmet, like everybody's wearing helmets these days, because that is a number one most important, is to keep your brain healthy and well and, protected. The cool thing about it is the same material that makes up the brain comes down as the spinal cord. The spinal cord is truly an extension of that and is the information superhighway. And then it has vertebra, 24 movable segments around it, and it's supposed to move around in space so that the brain can get out to the body in the best way possible, safely, but movable. And that's really where we come in. So when those segments stop moving like they should because of traumas, toxins, and bad thoughts or stress, then we start to get this interference to the brain's communication. And then the body's like, whoa, whoa. And it starts at a whisper. And then it starts at a whisper and then it gets louder. So we often see people with symptoms. Sometimes it's from like that physical trauma that woman went through, but sometimes it's just, have you been happy or sad? Like so happy your entire, being lights up, or so sad that your entire being shuts down. That's the nervous system. I want to continually relate this all the way back to that information superhighway that needs a movable body to work inside of so that our bodies can get around in space and age well, heal well, do all the things well. And so, so that's when we're getting back to that intelligence that's moving through our bodies and is always proportional to what's required of it. That intelligence moves through that information superhighway.
So that is also when Eric and I see people all the time, we ask about, have you had this is what's really interesting. I always ask, have you had any accidents, injuries, slips, trips, falls, anything, even if you feel like it doesn't apply to today. And so many people, and these are people 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're like, no, never. And I'm like, we have this ability to compartmentalize so well, because there's no possible way you have made it through this life without a slip, trip, fall, accident, injury, even just a faltering, or you bumped into a wall. And anytime you do that, remember, a few weeks ago we were talking, and I said, even if you just do this to your hand and you can feel the vibration in your hand, when you have some kind of fall or a jar, look at my head. It's like a bowling ball, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is whiplash, and whiplash is not just a car accident. So I think when people hear whiplash, like, oh, I've never been in a car accident. And so they'll answer no to the question. So it's important that you start to recognize all of the different ways that you potentially have jarred your spine so that it has gone out of alignment. It is dampening that message from the brain to the body through that there's a traffic jam along the superhighway. And so our job is to clear it up. Mm-hmm. And I have a patient, he was a new patient a couple weeks ago, and he told me he fell off his bike. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. He fell off his bike, and he did not hit his head. And this is the second person I know that has experienced and one slipped on the ice, did not hit their head. He did not hit his head. He was wearing a helmet, so that was good. However, he got up. He said, "Yeah, I was pretty banged up." And 2 months later, he started like having some balance issues. And he said, "I didn't realize how bad it was. I took myself to the hospital and I went to sign in and I couldn't write." He had a brain bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to drill holes in his brain to get the excess blood out from a fall that he did not hit his head, but he did this pretty bad. He fell off of a bike. Or people are like, "Oh, I only fell. I was on a step ladder. It was only 3 feet." Well, you know what's far is when you're standing on your feet and you fall like that.
That's far enough.
That's far enough. Yeah. And then you start to elevate that on a step stool or a bicycle. And so we tend to compartmentalize and minimize the things that we've done to our bodies that have caused severe trauma and damage and dampening of the system along the superhighway. So really, really important to recognize that could this be a problem? Could this be what's causing your chronic pain? Could it be what's causing your chronic digestive issues? Your chronic sleep issues, maybe you've got anxiety. There's so much that the nervous system is in charge of that now when you start to recognize, oh yeah, I call them the 2 a.m. wake up call. When they tell me no, oh, I've never had an injury. And I'll go, it's okay. Now that I've brought it to your attention, after I look at the x-rays and I go, yeah, you've had a whiplash injury. I did. Yes, you have, because I'm seeing XYZ. Oh, and there's a compression fracture in there. I do. And they just kind of like, what? And then I say to them, this is the 2 a.m. wake up call, is you're going to wake up and go, oh my God, that one time when, oh my God. And then there was the time when, and I've had people in the room and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that time I jumped out of an airplane. And I'm like,
right. You know what's really interesting as you're saying this? I was just thinking, so I had a really, really intense bout of vertigo. It was a number of years ago, but it followed. So I'm a snowboarder and I did a double back flip to a face plant accidentally. Like, it was so gnarly and it happened so fast. But when I fill out paperwork and I think about this, I don't even think about that. But I ended up with vertigo. And oftentimes I really feel like God or the universe sends me these experiences. Well, because I'm out having fun and I always call it main character things in my life, right? I'm being the main character. But I was like, oh, right. I also did a double backflip to a face plant. Fortunately, I had a helmet on. Unexpectedly, I was trying to keep up with these skiers and the grooming it was in the Georgian Bay, actually, in Northern Ontario. And I was trying to keep up with them. And as a snowboarder, it's a different speed. It's a different tone and whatever. So anyway, I remember going to get adjusted because I was like, wow, I feel really weird. It was a couple of weeks later, but I went to get adjusted and she turned me and just did a normal side posture move. And I'm not even kidding. I don't even know what took over. My body flew up off the table and I spun around in circles and landed in the corner of a room. It was so wild, but talk about injured and not really realizing it, realizing it. Fortunately, I haven't had any other experiences like that, but yeah, there's so many different ways that, our spine is compromised and we just doesn't even register.
Well, and I think that's part of our protective mechanism for the brain.
The compartmentalization that you talked about earlier. Our body's got to compartmentalize that till it has time to work with that.
Right. I mean, people who have gotten into, bad accidents, car accidents, and they're like, I don't remember a thing. I just woke up in the hospital. Yeah. That is your brain protecting you.
Yes.
That is, you don't want to remember that. Your brain turned off for a reason. That is a protective mechanism. But just because you can't remember it that means you should pay even more attention to it.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I had an injury so badly to my brain, because again, just this, your brain is floating in fluid and
Yeah.
it is banging against the sides of your head or, back and forth. And
Right.
that's what's here. Look at these. See these babies right here? These are called your eyes. And the optic nerve is attached to your brain.
Yeah, direct.
So often when we get an injury, people will get like blurry vision or double vision, the vertigo, because the eustachian tubes are right here and they head into the head and they get affected. And then you have this part of your brain back here called the cerebellum that's responsible for balance and coordination. And again, when that upper cervical gets knocked out of alignment, it's going to put stress on the cerebellum that can cause balance, coordination issues. There's so many parts of the brain and the nervous system that need to be taken care of. So anytime you've had any kind of slip, trip, fall, accident, injury of any kind,
Yes.
even if you don't think that it has anything to do with anything, you should go get it checked out.
Yeah. The other thing too is when we have these misalignments that happen during these injuries, the longer we wait, the deeper things set in, right? So time there, we have the principle of time there as well. So the quicker, just be under regular chiropractic care, no matter what. Like that's the no matter what. As a matter of fact, just be under regular chiropractic care, whether that be once a week, once a month, once every 2 to 3 weeks, whatever it is, find a chiropractor close to you and start doing it. I'm telling you. We're both telling you, just do it.
And we see people who've been under our care for years, and then they'll have some kind of physical. I have a patient, he's been my patient for 20 years. And he came in on Monday. He comes every week to every other week. And he called me Monday morning and I'm like, what'd you do? Because I know if he's calling me on Monday, something went south. And he goes, I was just walking to my car. I was trying my key fob and I tripped and I fell, and he fell forward, landed on his elbows. And, his head he did not hit his head, but his head did this.
Yep.
So he had shoulder pain. He had mid-back pain. I adjusted him. I used the laser. But the beauty of it is that he knows that by getting in right away, he's very well trained. He's going to get in right away. He's in 3 times this week. And then probably by next week, we'll be able to go back to once a week. So once your nervous system once we get it healthy, it's so much less effort to keep it there. We're not saying that you're going to live in a bubble and never have any injury again. God forbid you do, but we want you to be able to have your maximum healing potential in the face of that. And that's really where chiropractic shines.
It really does. And regular care, when you do have that setback, you get out of it so much faster. Like a patient like that, as you were talking about, had he not been under regular chiropractic care regularly, it would have been 3 times a week for 6 weeks. Like that's the corrective phase. And so then, but once you do that, if you can stick with something along the way, your body's going to be like, oh, I had a setback, but wait a second. I know how to adapt to this better, easier, faster. I know how to integrate these things better, easier, faster, rather than having it set me all the way back. It's such a lovely thing. That's why Dr. Paula and I, we wouldn't choose not to get it. Like we choose to get adjusted regularly, even though I've been adjusted since I was 2. Like I was fortunate that I had chiropractic care all the way from the start of my life. I have chiropractors in my family. Those chiropractors were educating my mom while my mom was having kids. And so, yeah, we've just been adjusted all along. And I really feel like we have been, as my brothers and I have been super healthy all along because we had that from such a young age regularly. We used to be the kids that would fight over who was getting first on the table and who was going to sit along the wall and wait. And I have those patients here now. I have those beautiful families that do that. I've had a bunch of infants in the last week. I've had 5-day-old babies. I've had those moms in labor. I've had those moms through their pregnancy. And now these babies are coming in, and it's so incredible because guess what? Our first subluxations happen during birth. You try putting a watermelon through that thing and all the ways that needs to happen for that. The uterus is the strongest muscle in the entire human body. Pushing that thing out through there. Guess how? It's really, really, really
Traumatic.
traumatic.
Well, and I
No
always
matter
say
what.
too, coming through the birth canal, the baby's head has to get turned so the face doesn't get smushed.
Yeah.
And then usually the
And then
shoulder
twist
gets
and
pushed down.
spiral out of it.
Yeah, there's this, right? So the baby gets
Yeah.
folded and twisted and then pulled up. I mean, what is that doing to your neck? And then guess what? If you have to be born C-section, people are always shocked by this. Because of a C-section, there's actually more force on the head, and they usually use vacuum extraction because you don't have the contractions pushing you out the birth canal.
Right.
So coming out naturally is traumatic enough, but if you have to come out C-section with suction, that's even more stress. So even more reason to get those babies to the chiropractor and have them checked. And it's just gentle. It's very gentle.
Yeah. I had 2 5-day-old babes, and one was in on Monday that was C-sectioned out. It was a planned C-section just due to baby number 4 and the first babe, her uterus ruptured. It was very dangerous, very scary. And so she had a planned C-section. So I got to see that babe. Fortunately, they didn't use any instruments. And this babe, but he went into major distress when he was out. And so anyway, we just moved through, and he's doing well and all the things. But the other babe was born like this. Her hand was on her cheek, and she was pushing through the birth canal like this.
Oh.
And it actually really threw mom's pelvis out on that hand side, because this is not a normal way to come through. There's a lot of extra friction. There's an intense, just a really, really intense. So anyway, it's a whole thing. And I'm just so honored. I mean, I've had like 4 or 5 pregnant women in today. I don't know how anybody does pregnancy without chiropractic. It's a whole thing.
To do.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we're so fortunate. We are so fortunate to be able to be part of these people's lives.
And just this real quick too, born C-section, massive balloon heads, because the vaginal canal is designed to squeeze all of the fluid out of the baby. So, and that fluid, it takes a little while for it to get out of the baby. So it's really important that, you massage that baby. If it has to come out C-section, you've got to be able to move the fluid through, so that, because that's just the way it's supposed to go. And you're supposed to get good bacteria from mom's vagina on you. That's our first influence of immune system. So, there's so much divineness to having a natural birth, and we want to, bastardize that and do planned C-sections. And, unless you have major health issues, you really want to consider, if a doctor wants to say, we're going to plan it, and you're newly pregnant, I would run for the hills on that one. So,
yes, I'm sporting a tattoo. That's so funny. So this is the, well, I have a few, but I'll share this one is the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, summited 2017 on March 8th, which is coming up. And I was trying to get the phrase, I am me because of us, which just means like there's many us's. If you look around your life, there will be many us's. But that was definitely one. And I couldn't get it properly translated. So that is the peak. I actually forget it's there. I mean, I see it in camera, right? But as I turn my arm, I don't see it. So yeah.
Okay.
The other ones, I know, right? Those are only for the lucky ones. Actually, I do have one.
Yeah.
This one says fall in love with your life. And it is a dedication piece, but it's a reminder daily. Yes.
Uncle Al keeps calling you Dr. Jen.
I know. It's Erica.
Yeah, it's Dr. Erica.
Anyway, we should go. I know you have
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the time. I know you got to run. So do you want to read that one more time and then we'll sign off? Yep.
So number 7, the amount of intelligence in matter. So the amount of intelligence for any given amount of matter is 100% and is always proportional to its requirements, which that's what we've been talking about this whole time, is when your body's trying to heal, it's putting supply and demand messages out there. The brain is communicating. And if the information superhighway is working right, then
so let your body be what it needs to be, do what it needs to do, and try as best as you can not to interfere, because that's really what it is. The body is designed for self-healing. It just needs no interference to do so. So you guys are amazing. Thank you again for being here again for another week. I'll see you Sunday for Sunday Night Live. I'm going to have a holistic dentist on. That's going to be amazing. And then we'll see you guys back here for principle number 8. Yay. Have an amazing week.
Bye, you guys. Love you.
Bye.